Hello, good morning, love wrestling, happy Sunday morning. We are here. You can see Drew, you can see myself, and we are here for another edition of Firmly AEW. Got a lot to talk about this week, Drew. But first and foremost, per usual, how you doing this Sunday morning?
I'm doing good. It's a little earlier than normal.
Yeah, I actually don't mind it, to be honest with you. If I'm being completely honest, I don't mind it. But I digress. I mean, we're only an hour earlier, nothing too crazy, but life happens. We got some, we got stuff to do this afternoon. At first, yesterday, we were like, do we not have the show at all? Like, what do we, we got stuff to do, blah, blah, blah. And then Drew was like, you know what? I'm cool with doing it a little bit earlier. Let's go at 9. And I was like, bro, I'm up at 7 every day, even without an alarm. So I'm ready to go. So, yeah. So we're here a little bit earlier than usual, but that's a good thing. Because we got a lot to talk about. AEW had a hell of a week, Drew. Hell of a week.
They did.
Since the last time we spoke last Sunday morning, we had a very successful, I thought, AEW Dynasty show. We crowned a brand new World Heavyweight Champion. We crowned a new TBS Champion. We had arguably the match of the year with Ospreay and Danielson, among many other great matches. We had a pretty damn good episode of Dynamite, even though I couldn't hear anything the whole show. Audio was awful. I watched the show of Dynamite. I enjoyed Dynamite. I don't know if your audio was as bad as mine. I know Tony Khan said it was a TBS issue and not an AEW issue. It was so bad on my feed, I couldn't hear anything the whole show. Like almost like any vignette, any stuff like that. The audio was it was so bad.
It was pretty wonky, yeah.
But the show itself was really good, and I thought another good episode of Collision. Rampage was all right. Like, there's a lot to discuss. So, it was a hell of a week, man. AEW had a big banner week for them.
Probably and we didn't realize it at the time, it's probably going to end up being one of their biggest weeks to date.
Yeah, because you have all the shows that AEW did, but then because of things that happened, AEW was like at the forefront, or for a little bit, AEW was being discussed during the NFL draft on Thursday night and during all these things. Like, it just turned into this big thing that we're going to get into because I had a good time on Thursday night with Tony Khan in the NFL draft. I had a good time. So let's dive into it. We're going to start with Dynamite. And then as we talk about Dynamite, we'll kind of lump in the Dynasty portion of, like, what happened and what the people were involved in and stuff like that. But we are ready to go. This was the fallout of AEW Dynasty on Wednesday night. And they were back home this week, Drew. They were at Daly's Place in Jacksonville. They had just been there a couple months ago. I do too. I like the look of it is just so different from every other typical arena you see. I do like that they have a home base, and that's considered their home base. They were just there in January, so it's not like it's been like a long time since they've been there. But it's always cool when they go back to Daly's Place because they do treat it like their homecoming and like, hey, we're back where we were for a long time because of the pandemic and stuff. And I think it's pretty cool that, for a long time, I feel like WWE treated Madison Square Garden that way. where like Madison Square Garden was like their home. When they went to
Right.
Madison Square Garden, it was like, oh, WWE's going to Madison Square Garden. This is like, their home base. Like they're going to kill it. Like, I feel like that's how AEW treats Daly's Place. And it's cool. It's cool like that. I like how they have like a little home base that whenever they go to, you could tell everybody's jazzed up. They're like, oh, we're back in Jacksonville tonight. Very cool. And, it was a pretty star-studded Dynamite. The show started by showing Jack Perry and the Elite showing up to the arena.
Mhm.
Security tries to stop Jack Perry and says, hey, you're not welcome in here. But he was with the EVPs, and obviously they were like, no, he's with us. He's good. He's with us. We're in charge. He's with us, and they let them into the building. So obviously at AEW Dynasty last Sunday, FTR and the Young Bucks had their tag team ladder match to determine the new champions. And as we both predicted earlier on in the day, scapegoat Jack Perry made his presence felt in that match and helped.
Such a great way too.
Oh, it's fantastic. Fantastic return. And he helped the Young Bucks become the 3-time AEW tag team champions. And we will talk about Jack Perry and the Elite as this show goes on when we go through Dynamite. But just in general, you and I and a lot of people, we kind of saw the writing on the wall here. We saw this coming. We predicted this, as many did, but I thought it was executed perfectly.
Oh yeah, it really was. Having him in almost looked like a devil mask.
It almost did. It was like one of those white. Yeah, it was kind of similar to that. Yes.
And you just know who it is immediately. But it was so great the way that they did the reveal.
Yeah, and
the
the smirk.
hood.
Yeah,
and you could see that it's Jack Perry's hair.
The second,
and then the face reveal. It was so well done. It really was.
Yeah, and then I just think that smirk that he had on his face, that is going to be his thing. It seems like that smirk is going to kind of be his thing here, which is good. I just thought it was really perfectly well done, and I thought it was the right time. And looking back on it, Drew, we talked about it last week or 2 weeks ago. We talked about how we felt about them showing the footage and all this stuff, and we talked about how the only person that it was going to help would be Jack Perry. Looking back on it now, it worked. What they did and that angle of the footage leading to this moment, especially what happens at the end of this show that we'll talk about, that whole angle worked. I think they did it too. Like, there weren't many faults. You can still make the argument of whether they needed the footage to get to where they are now, here or there. Fine. I will have that discussion with you. And I was one of the people that, like, I wasn't against the footage, but I thought it really meant nothing. I was like,
you know what? I'm going to be totally honest with you. I think they needed the footage.
Yeah. Looking back on it now, I think it was the right thing to do. And I think they crushed it. I think they absolutely crushed it.
If they didn't have the footage, it would not have been as big of a deal.
No.
And yes, obviously, playing the footage wasn't just to play the footage. It was also to try and boost ratings because CM Punk was going to be shown on AEW TV again.
Well,
it can be both.
Yeah, but I think there was even more to it than that. Like, I think, the ratings bump was something that they wanted. But looking back on it a few weeks later or a week and a half later, wherever we're at now, going into it, I was like, oh, they're just showing the footage because Punk talks some crap. They feel embarrassed a little bit. So they're going to show some footage to kind of, that's, I think that was my mentality, which was why I was like, what the hell did this do? But now looking back on it now, no, they showed the footage specifically for the Jack Perry return. That's why, like, there were other motives behind it. But I look at it like, no, this was done to set up this angle more than anything. Like, did they want the cheap shot back at CM Punk? Absolutely. Did they want a hopeful ratings boost? Absolutely. Like, those things were a part of, hey, we should do this, I'm assuming, in the discussion. But to me, looking back on it now, the reason they showed that footage was to get Jack Perry to where he is immediately upon his return, because now he is in the elite. He is going to be a top level heel. We're going to talk about it later, but he assaulted the boss at the end of this show, which, okay, that just, just looking back on it, not saying that the feelings I had in the moment are not how I still feel, but now knowing where we are and what, I think
I
they did
feel
the right
very
thing.
confident in saying that
I think they did the right thing.
I no longer feel the same way.
Yeah. Like, I think they did the right thing for Jack Perry and for this angle and for that return. I think the footage was essential.
They're also, I think, smartly playing into the heat that those guys naturally already have
Mm-hmm.
because people just love to hate them.
Yep.
And they make it their mission in life to be tribalistic.
Yeah.
So they're going to just hate on the Young Bucks and they're going to hate on Jack Perry.
Mm-hmm.
So
100%.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that they're playing into it because they're doing it in a smart way.
Yep.
Unlike, other people who, thought that they think that they're doing the right thing just because, they won for 83 weeks.
Yeah. Well, come on.
You know,
those people I pay no real attention to because they have an agenda. And I can listen to people. I can listen to people that I know are down the middle. If you critique something, I can listen to that all day because that's part of life. But when you have a track record of continuously critiquing something, then at some point for me, I'm like, okay, well, that's just that's just what you do. That's just what you do. Like, your value of your opinion, no matter what you did, no matter what status you had, like, God bless your success in your life. But like, it is clear Eric Bischoff, who I don't even dislike. I don't even dislike Eric Bischoff. But
I don't really dislike him either.
It is very clear that Eric Bischoff, no matter what happens, is always going to talk shit about AEW.
Mm-hmm. And be a massive hypocrite about it too.
Yes, and that's what he does. So anytime he comes out and does something like this, I'm just like, okay, yeah. Like, I look at it and I go, all right, yeah, whatever.
He really had the gall to say, and this is just, I tweeted about this a couple of days ago. He really had the gall to say that he would have actually liked the closing angle that we're going to get to.
Yeah.
If it parodied and took shots at him getting powerbombed in WCW by Kevin Nash.
Yeah. It's like,
but yet has continuously every single time whined and complained about all of the shots that they take. But said that he would have liked it if they took the shot. This is the hypocriticism.
Yeah. Like, if you remember how Bayside was, how Bischoff was when he was running WCW, he was cocky, he was arrogant, he was on every show, he was challenging Vince McMahon to fights at pay-per-views. He was doing all these things that, again, at the time were like, oh, damn, like, this is like, at the time it was like cool shit. Like, can you imagine if Twitter was around when Bischoff was running WCW? Do you not think that Jesus. Bischoff, and I get it, and I critique Tony Khan for how he uses social media. Like, I am one of those people that I'm like, okay, buddy, you don't need to be on your phone right now. You know what I mean? But can you imagine with the attitude that Bischoff had when he was running WCW and the cockiness that he had when they were winning WWE and stuff like that? Hi, Lawrence. Hi, Lawrence's mom.
Hello, Lawrence and Lawrence's mom.
Can you imagine how Bischoff would have acted or the things he would have done if social media was as prevalent then as it is now? And he's like one of the biggest people, and I get it, and I understand the critiques of TK when it comes to his Twitter, because sometimes he does fun stuff and sometimes he's an idiot and he needs to not be near his phone. But like, at the same time, you have these people like a Bischoff and a Cornette and all these people that talk so much crap about Tony Khan. Some of it justified. They don't know how can you imagine Jim Cornette and Eric Bischoff in the mid 90s if Twitter was around? Can you imagine?
Yeah, because Cornette was also tasked by Vince McMahon to take shots at WCW
Yeah.
on Raw.
Yeah.
So
Do you not remember, like, WWF did the Nacho Man and the Old Man Hogan, those like the billionaire Ted spoofs in the mid
they did
'90s.
the
One, and that was before the
fake
Attitude
Diesel
Era.
and Razor Ramon.
Yeah, like WW, like it's this has always been a thing in pro wrestling, but everybody sits here and acts like Tony Khan is like this. Oh my God, what's he doing? He's talking. They're talking crap about WWE on their thing. Oh no, like they're ruining wrestling. It's like, dude, this shit's been going on forever. That was before the NWO and before the Attitude Era. That was when Hogan left WWF to go to WCW, and Vince was like, okay, every week on Raw for the next 2 months, we're going to make a skit that makes fun of Ted Turner, Macho Man, Mean Gene Okerlund, like guys that built his, not Turner, but Hogan, Macho Man, Mean Gene Okerlund, they helped build WWF. Without those three, WWF isn't what it is. And they left to go to WCW and take a paycheck. And Vince was like, I'm using my airtime that I pay for to make fun of your asses every week for 2 straight months. And nobody said shit. Those things are hilarious. And nobody said anything.
Yeah.
Again, no social media. So everybody's opinion, but we live in a time where social media makes everybody think that their opinion matters.
Of course.
So that wasn't around, but like this stuff's been going on forever. And so when I hear when I see a Bischoff or a Cornette, I'm like, whatever, dude. Like,
Shut
I don't.
the fuck up.
Yeah, like you said something bad about AEW? No shit. No, you did? Wow, that's a shock. Anyway,
my cat would like to put her 2 cents in.
I mean, I get it. So after that, we then had Chuck Taylor come down to the ring, and he's making his decision because obviously Trent Beretta and Orange Cassidy, there was friction there as Trent had turned heel. Orange Cassidy comes out first, and Trent follows. And Trent attacks Orange Cassidy. He looks right at Chucky and he says he's sorry that he didn't turn on Orange Cassidy sooner. That's what he says. So
I'm gonna be honest with you.
Yeah,
Trent had some points in this.
Oh yeah, I like Trent.
He did.
I like Trent. If you have a couple more, I know he was just like, hey, I'm sorry about this, but I'm sorry I didn't do it sooner.
When he said he was supposed to be our sidekick or whatever the wording was.
Yep, and then we turn into his lackeys or whatever he said.
It's.
I mean, when you think about it,
not wrong.
No, when you think about it, when AEW started, like, yeah, the best friends was the group. The group was the best friends, and Orange Cassidy was like the third. Yeah, he was the third wheel. It was the tag team in Orange Cassidy.
Yeah,
and then Orange Cassidy obviously got very popular and got over, and he became the star of the show. So then Chuck Taylor acts like him and Trent are gonna hug,
right?
But he kind of runs him off, and he goes, "I always knew you were a piece of shit."
And he finally got to say shit on live television.
He did. He said, "I always knew you were a piece of shit." And then he said, "I know back there they won't clear me for a regular match, but I don't want a regular match." He's like, "I want to fight you in the parking lot." And then we find out
they did during Daly's place a long time ago.
It's one of the best matches in AEW history.
It is.
That tag match. And so we find out that on Rampage, which aired live after Collision last night, that one of the matches was going to be a parking lot brawl between Trent and Chucky T. And I will say, yes, you had mentioned it. That tag match was with Santana and Ortiz, correct?
Yeah.
That tag match that they did in the parking lot brawl years and years ago at Daly's place, that is one of the best matches in AEW history. Still is. That match ruled. So that was a good little piece of business to start the show. We then had our champion, seeing him for the first time, the new AEW World Champion, Swerve Strickland, in an eliminator match against Kyle Fletcher. How did you feel?
I didn't like it. I'm going to be honest.
I was going to say, the match itself was good.
The match was great. Yeah.
But how did you, I was going to ask how you felt about Swerve, because they did an interview segment with him last night.
Yeah.
And then so it was like immediately out there fighting.
No promo.
No.
Didn't even get to talk.
No.
Just out there in a match.
Wrestling, man. Yeah.
And first also,
Yeah,
like,
it didn't start the show, but first match on the show.
I don't mean no, I mean like he came out first.
Mm,
Why? He's the champion. Kyle Fletcher is also a champion, but
true.
not the champion.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh and I would have rather this have just been like someone else. Why couldn't he have an eliminator match with Roddy or Adam Copeland?
Mm,
Like, Swerve wasn't necessary to sell the story between the definite eventual breakup of the Callis family.
mm, yeah. It's fair. I mean, I think they just, yeah, I don't know why, because again, we're going to talk about Collision after Dynamite, but like they saved the promo, like crowning the AEW Championship crowning promo where the crowd's giving him the chance, and they saved that for Collision last night. Whereas, and I get it, he ended up wrestling on both shows, so I guess it doesn't matter, but I almost felt like the interview segment they did at the beginning of Collision last night should have been the thing that started the show on Dynamite.
I agree. But I understand that they probably wanted more eyes to be on him, so they waited until
Yeah.
after a big NBA game to.
Well, last night, yes. Yeah, because that's a good transition, because you get the NBA crowd coming in, and if all of a sudden they see this guy, and they're like, this guy looks badass, this guy looks cool as shit, who's this guy? And then it's like, oh, all right, and then they
Although I
might.
would have preferred it to have been after a football game, since this whole deal this week was about the
Oh,
NFL
I know.
draft.
Well, there's no football games though until September, unfortunately.
Yeah, so
So,
that was the unfortunate part. But I know they've used the NBA before to transition into
oh yeah,
shows and do
yeah,
big shows. So it's not like that's a foreign thing for them. But yeah, it was just weird, like not hearing him talk until Saturday, and then
yeah,
having his first appearance as champion just be Don Callis family fodder,
yep,
because that's really what it was. It was
yeah. I
he
agree.
played no part in that story whatsoever. It was
No.
just he was the guy that Kyle Fletcher was facing,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
and that was his
100%.
role for the entire show,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Very odd. It's very odd. Backstage, Thunder Rosa is being interviewed by Renee Paquette. And they are interrupted by Deonna Purrazzo almost immediately. And they get in each other's face and they kind of have a shoving match, and they have to be separated by security. We'll keep that in
Security
mind.
was all over this show.
They were. Again, in this segment, like, I don't know if Thunder Rosa said anything of importance before anything. The audio was awful for me. But I don't know if she said anything of importance before Deonna kind of showed up or not. But yeah, and like, keep that in mind, because we will talk about these two individuals a little bit later in the show.
Mhm.
So yeah, we then had Mina Shirakawa versus Anna Jay. This match to me was nothing. This was like a kind of match to me. It's fine. It's
Yeah.
fine. But what happened after, though, is Mariah May and Mina are they're starting to celebrate Mina's victory, and Anna Jay just attacks them both. She attacks them, and then Toni Storm comes out to save Mariah, and then that leads. So Toni Storm comes out. She leaves the world title on the entranceway, and she runs to the ring to kind of get Anna Jay out of there and protect Mariah and stuff like that. And then we see Serena Deeb. We hadn't seen her in a few weeks. I don't think we've seen her, or at least I haven't seen her since she cut that promo where she kind of said she was the final boss. Now,
Yeah, that was like in February, I think.
I was going to say, do you think they ran away from that immediately because The Rock started calling himself the final boss? Because she called herself the final boss in that promo. And then everybody was like, oh, she's going to fight Mercedes and this. And then The Rock next week was like, I'm the final boss. And Serena Deeb was never seen
Was
again.
she the first one to say final boss?
I believe so. I think so.
I don't
Because
remember.
I don't remember the timeline of things, but I'm pretty sure in that promo she cut a few months ago where everyone was like, oh, she's going to fight Mercedes because she said boss and this and that.
Boss, yeah,
She
right.
called herself the final boss. And then obviously the Rock kind of took that over. And I wonder if they were just like, Yeah, we're not gonna call you that anymore. We're just gonna put you over here for a few. We're gonna let
I
him
mean,
do
they
that.
didn't have to take her off TV.
No, but I feel like we
Not
hadn't
since
seen her
Final
since that,
Boss
right?
again.
We hadn't seen her since that, correct? Am I
Yeah,
crazy?
it feels like it.
Yeah.
Or maybe she had, like, one more match after that.
Ah! But either way, Serena Deeb comes out and she sits on the entranceway and she grabs the title and she looks at the camera and she basically says that she's next. She's next. She wants a shot at Tony. She wants a shot at the title. She's the best.
So, I
Yeah.
guess that means the rankings are officially done with
I mean,
again.
I honestly, I don't know if they've been updating them on the website or anything like that, but I haven't seen
I
a
mean,
graphic on anywhere about those rankings for like
it
over 2
doesn't
months.
really matter at
Yeah,
this
no.
point. Even if they were updating the graphics for the rankings, what is Serena Deeb doing is the next person. She hasn't been on TV for 2 months.
Yeah, yeah,
So,
yeah,
Willow Nightingale just won a match.
yeah.
Tony Storm is winning matches. Mariah May has won more matches than Serena Deeb has in the past 2 months.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But in general, a Serena Deeb Tony Storm little mini program here for the title, all for it. All for it.
yeah.
It should be great. Serena Deeb is excellent. We then find out it's revealed that Jack Perry and Tony Khan will have a face-to-face in the ring later on in the evening. So that was good. That was nice. It was like, oh, face-to-face. Here we go. We then have Willow Nightingale has herself an AEW TBS title celebration, which gets interrupted by Mercedes Moné.
Spotlight stealer.
Mm-hmm. Willow says that she wants to beat Mercedes at 100% at Double or Nothing, and she can't wait for her match to prove her worth. And then Mercedes starts to walk away, and Statlander grabs Mercedes' arm. And then Mercedes ends up slapping Willow across the face. And then chaos ensued, and there was separations and security and all fun stuff. So it's Statlander again, who is the person that attacked both these women, in my opinion. I know yours as well. She is the one that grabs Mercedes when Mercedes gets out there. Willow says her thing. Mercedes is getting ready to leave. Peaceful. We're going to have a peaceful little thing here. Statlander grabs Mercedes. Mercedes thinks it's Willow. So Mercedes slaps the shit out of Willow. And now there's all chaos.
Orchestrated beautifully.
Unbelievable.
Unbelievable. She's playing everyone
like a fiddle. Like a fiddle. Good stuff.
Hopefully that is what actually ends up happening.
Yeah. Good stuff. We then had the Casino Gauntlet match. Now, this was to determine the next challenger for Roderick Strong's International Championship at Double or Nothing. Will Ospreay ended up winning this match. And he didn't personally defeat all these guys, but he defeated Penta, Commander, Kyle O'Reilly, Dante Martin, Jay White, Jay Lethal, and Lance Archer. That's everybody that was involved.
Who did he pin? I don't remember. Was it Dante?
I think so. I would have to go back and watch it, to be honest with you. How'd you think about this match? Because it was a gauntlet match, but you didn't have to. It was like slightly different rule. You know what I mean?
It wasn't like, oh, you defeat this person and then the next person comes out.
Yes.
It was like every 2 or 3 minutes.
Yeah, just somebody came out and it could be multiple. Yeah, and it could be a multiple man match at some point because of it, or it was kind of like it was a gauntlet match, but it wasn't a one-on-one typical gauntlet match. Like how'd you feel about the format of the match?
You know what I would call it? Because they called it a casino
gauntlet match. Right? Yeah, casino.
I would have called it a casino gauntlet exhibition.
Okay.
Feels like it was because it wasn't like a standard match.
Yeah.
So I couldn't call it a match because a match is between a determined amount of people.
Yeah.
And typically they're not just adding more and more and more and more people. The Royal Rumble isn't I don't call it a match. It's a battle royal.
Yeah.
So this was like a casino gauntlet battle royal in a sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
People are not. They don't have to throw anybody over the top rope
No.
They just got to pin the guy.
Yeah.
So it's like if the Royal Rumble was you had to pin somebody.
That's fair. Imagine. Oh, that match will last forever. Morning, Scott. Welcome into the chat, my
Good
friend.
morning.
Yes. So after the match, we found out that because of the result of that match, Ospreay is now the number one contender for the international championship at Double or Nothing, and Roderick Strong and the Undisputed Kingdom kind of came down and confronted Ospreay after the match. Kind of had a nice little face to face there. That match should
and
be
at
good.
Dynasty,
Oh my God, yeah.
Adam
Both these
Cole
guys.
made a return.
Yeah, and he was walking.
He was walking.
He was walking. He was looking all right there. He was looking all right.
I had just reported on my news show the day prior that they'd taken him off the road for a while.
So that was
because of
clearly
injury
a swerve, correct?
Yeah, they were working everybody.
Yeah, because that report did come out that he wasn't healing great, and they had to take him off the road because it wasn't healing to the way it was supposed to, and he was going to be out for extra. And it was like, God dang, man!
Yeah.
And then
And
literally, he's just out of the wheelchair, walking, doing his thing. I'm like, okay, I don't know. Again, being able to walk and being able to wrestle are two dramatically different things.
Right. Yeah.
But still, very good sign. That's a very, very good sign that Adam Cole hopefully is on his way to being healthy here sooner than later.
After that, they then said, "Oh, MJF." This came out a couple of days ago, I think. I think it was yesterday even. It might have even been yesterday. Where it's like, oh, MJF had to go under the knife, so now he's going to be out for a longer amount of time. And I'm going,
he's coming back at Double or Nothing.
Is he?
Double or Nothing, he's coming back.
But is he?
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to be coming back at Double or Nothing.
You think it's after that? Forbidden Door?
I think he's coming back at Forbidden Door because they moved Forbidden Door to the UBS Arena.
In Long Island.
Which is in Long Island.
Yeah.
Which is where he lost the title at World's End.
And where Adam Cole turned on him, obviously. So you could kind of full circle it all back to the original spot where MJF kind of comes back. Whatever plans Adam Cole has for Forbidden Door, maybe, or something like that. MJF maybe plays a little spoiler himself. We then had, here it is, Drew. Chris Jericho. I'm going to be honest with you. This segment here, didn't mind it. I know we've been I know everybody's anti-Jericho around here, and I get it. But what Chris Jericho is doing right now, I mean, it's kind of stuff that Chris Jericho has always done.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So for me, like, I have always been a big proponent of, I think there are certain times where, like, I don't think Jericho needs to be on television every week, right? I think he's at the level now where he can, he doesn't have to be there on a weekly basis. But at the same time, the stuff that he's actually doing now, in the process of turning heel, he had new music. What'd you think of the new music?
I couldn't hear the music as well.
Yeah, it wasn't great. Yeah, the audio was shit. I
hadn't yet plugged my headphones into my new thing. So when I had my headphones plugged into this microphone, it kind of severely lowered the volume.
Yeah.
And I didn't have any volume control on it. So I couldn't really hear things as well. The next day, I hooked it up to this nice new system that I put in. And it severely increased the volume on everything. As a result, I was able to hear things I hadn't heard before.
Very good.
So, and I have a volume control for it as well. I can make you very loud if I want to.
All right, that's fancy.
So I didn't hear it as well. So I have to go back and rewatch it now that I have the capabilities of volume control.
It's a Fozzy song. It's another Fozzy song.
It's a Fozzy song.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not Judas. And
it's not Judas. It's a different.
Makes me happy.
It's a different Fozzy song. He had a new Titantron video for the Learning Tree gimmick that he's got going on here. Comes to the ring and he talks shit about Taz, Hook, and Shibata. That's what this whole promo is. He says that Hook should have listened to him because everybody that comes into the Jericho Vortex comes out better on the other side.
Jericho Vortex, now canon.
Yeah.
Everyone
So,
used to say that, but it was
yeah,
never mentioned by AEW.
yeah, yeah. You look at. Sometimes you got to lean in. You got to lean in on things, Yeah. So he says whoever comes through the Jericho vortex comes out better than on the other side. And then we see Big Bill. So Big Bill comes out. We really haven't seen Big Bill since him and Ricky Starks lost the tag titles a ton. Big Bill comes out and he says that he wants to be under the learning tree of Chris Jericho. And Jericho says, "Hey, Big Bill, you've been somebody I've had my eye on for a while here. Um, and I'll be watching you to see if what you say is true and if you're a good fit for the learning tree." So it looks like Big Bill might be the first branch under the learning tree
And we
of
saw
Chris
Big
Jericho.
Bill, I think, was it Rampage or Collision that he
I think
had the match?
he was in action on Rampage. He was in action on Rampage.
Right,
Um,
and he defeated somebody. I don't
yeah,
remember who.
murdered somebody. Somebody.
And I think it was what was his name? Martin Stone, I think was his name.
No, that
And
was
it
the
was
guy that Roosh fought on.
Oh, that was Roosh. Okay.
Yeah, Roosh. First of all, Martin Stone, that was Danny Burch from NXT. Oni Lorcan and
I
Danny
knew he
Burch.
looked familiar.
Yeah, he looked a little bigger, like he put on some weight and some bulk, and he wasn't bald. He had like a little bit of hair, it looked
Yeah.
like, or like a facial hair or something. He looked a smidge different, but he looked familiar to me. And then I saw on Twitter that people were like, "No, that was Danny Burch from NXT," and I was like, "That makes sense." But yeah, so I like Big Bill. I think Big Bill has been, when he kind of, him and Ricky ended up being a pretty damn good team there. But when he was doing the stuff with Brian K, I think Big Bill has been really good since he's been in AEW. Not utilized a ton, like a ton, but I think he's been good. And I have no problem with Big Bill being. The problem
Big
with
Bill is the new Jake Hager.
that's what I don't want it to be, though. Like, I want them to be. I need
Also,
AEW and I
that
need Chris
means
Jericho to be aware enough that, like, yeah, you're leaning in on some of the things that, like, the IWC say, the Jericho Vortex and the stuff like that. Like, that's not a positive thing. You know what I mean? Like, that's not a positive thing. So I just hope that Jericho and Tony, now that they're copywriting it and leaning into it, I just hope that they're aware that, like, if Big Bill is joining the Jericho Vortex, this shouldn't be to get Jericho more over. It should be to get Big Bill over.
Actually, should have just named it the Jericho Vortex. Forget about the learning tree.
Yeah, it should be the Jericho Vortex, to be honest with you. But you notice
so
how
when
they
Big
didn't
Bill,
say rarefied air, though? This past week, he didn't say that. I didn't hear him say that. I heard him say the other two. I heard him say Jericho Vortex, the learning tree, but he dropped the rarefied air of Jericho. I wonder if somebody told him to drop it, or you were convinced that Holiday might end up maybe being a part of this group at some point.
still
But
good.
I wonder if somebody told him, like, "Hey, why don't you drop that one for a little bit? That one's been taken. That one's
He
been
still
taken."
could though.
Yeah. But Big
But we'll
Bill, what do we
see.
think about Big Bill?
So when Big Bill came out, I forgot that Ricky was injured. I was like, "Oh shit! Does this mean that Ricky's gone?" Because
I mean,
which could still, I mean, it still could be a
always been a
possibility.
rumor that he would be one of the ones. He
So
was
I
still
don't
recovering
know.
from almost jumping out of the luxury box at WrestleMania when Cody won the title. So, but
um, and I hope that he's doing okay because I know he had. I don't remember what the injury was.
yeah,
Um, but it was in the match between them and I think it was uh Top Flight.
something like that. Because
Yeah,
they lost the yeah.
yeah, Top Flight had that shocking victory that we were not expecting, and it seemed like it was because Ricky had gotten injured in that
Mhm.
match. So hopefully that means that he's just off, getting healthy and he'll be back. And I don't know what that means for him and Big Bill because I actually did like them as a tag team.
Oh yeah, I did too. But
So did the company as they were the tag team champions.
yeah, but I don't think Ricky wants to be in the tag team. If I had to guess, I don't think Ricky wants to be in the tag team.
I would guess probably not.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens with that. But I don't hate this learning tree concept. I just hate that it's Chris Jericho. I
Again, yes. Okay.
it really needs to
It needs to put over the people that are going to be in the group
it,
more than it
it
puts over him.
right. It needs to do that. And I will say, in some respect, with with Daniel Garcia, with Sammy Guevara to some sort of a degree, to Anna Jay, some sort of a degree, the Inner Circle and the Jericho Appreciation Society did kind of elevate some people.
It
Some
elevated
people.
Sammy Guevara. If we're talking inner circle from the beginning, it elevated Sammy Guevara. It did. Whether he did stuff that on his own,
Yeah,
yeah, it elevated Sammy Guevara. It should immediately upon arrival, it elevated Santana and Ortiz. The company fumbled the bag by never making them tag champions.
correct.
Completely an inexcusable mistake.
They had Sammy and the Les Sex Gods thing
What
during the
should have
pandemic
happened with the inner circle
when
right away,
when the tag team of the group was right there.
what should have happened with the inner circle, that first iteration, Jericho, world champion, as he was. Santana and Ortiz should have been the tag team champions, and Sammy Guevara should have been the TNT champion. And Inner Circle literally should have ran the show. I mean, they kind of did, but like Inner Circle, they should have
Oh,
just
they
been
did
more.
absolutely,
They should have just been, you know, the
but
fact
they
that Santana and
used
Ortiz were never the tag champs, and now Santana's and TNT, like the whole
and good for
thing is
him.
like, no, go, yeah, great for him. He looks great too. Like, good for him. He's gonna be world champion over there at some point. But when you look back on it, like there's just so many missed opportunities with Santana and Ortiz.
The
Just so many.
problem with pandemic wrestling, and this isn't even just an AEW thing. This is also was a WWE thing. They use certain people and certain groups just to fulfill the crowdless era of wrestling.
Mhm.
And the Inner Circle was that
Mm.
for AEW. Other the Retribution thing or Bobby Lashley and the I forgot what they were calling that
What?
group of him and Cedric Alexander and Shelton
Oh,
Benjamin.
Hurt Business, man. Those
Hurt
guys
Business,
ruled. Hurt
right.
Business ruled though. Oh, so
That
good.
was I shall say the Hurt Business and the Inner Circle, respective for both companies,
Yeah.
were pandemic era wrestling
Oh, yeah.
type of groups where the company is using you, the group, to elevate the shows when there's no people around.
It's fair.
And I mean, AEW did have some people
Yeah, I
around
was
that
gonna say
were
the Inner Circle was early, wasn't it?
well,
The Inner
it
Circle.
started on the first show.
Yeah, I was gonna say because Jericho on that show in Boston, the second show, that was like the first promo where he referred to them as like that was right at the beginning. So that was
Yeah. But
yeah,
then when the pandemic happened,
yeah,
they were doing like the Bubbly Bunch
yeah,
segments and they were really kind of like making them, that first show in the pandemic was centered around them in a sense because
yeah,
of what happened at the end when Broken Matt Hardy appeared.
yeah.
And then they were doing the segments with them in the jacuzzis and at their homes.
Mhm.
It really was like the Inner Circle is like the AEW elevation of the shows
Mhm.
because they're the most entertaining thing. You can't rely on fan interaction because
No,
there are no fans.
no. Oh,
um,
I failed to mention that Chris Jericho is the new FTW champion, by the way. He beat Hook.
I was trying to forget that, but
Yeah, he beat
thanks for
Hook
reminding me.
at Dynasty. I had no problem with the result of the match at Dynasty. I actually went in thinking Jericho was going to win. People were blaming
Unfortunately,
me
I
on
did too.
Twitter. People were blaming me on Twitter that it did happen. Doc Mueller specifically blamed me because I called it.
Blamed you.
Oh yeah, he said this is JPJ's fault. Just so we all know. And I said I'll take it. I'd rather be right with
Well,
people upset at me.
he was trying to get the heat taken off of him.
Yeah, I was like I'd
Bleacher
rather be
Report
right
and
and have people upset at me than be wrong and have everyone love me. So that's just who I am as a person. So I had no problem with the result of the match. I did not think that Hook and Chris Jericho needed 17 minutes at Dynasty. Could have gave him 10. Could have gave him 10 and got to the same result. And I think the match probably would have been liked, to be honest with you, because I don't think they had a bad match. I just think it didn't need to go 15 plus minutes.
Yeah.
And that's for Jericho and Hook, because Hook is really good and I like Hook a lot. Hook ain't ready for 15-minute matches, dude. He just ain't. He's not that type of guy yet.
And
Can he
honestly,
be? Yes, he's not that type of guy to have 15-minute wrestling matches. Like, that's not who he is. And I just thought the timing was, if that match would have been 8 to 10 minutes, I think everybody would have said, okay, that was pretty good. That was fine. I think everybody wouldn't have hated it as much as they did. But when you double that, and everyone's like, why the hell is this going on so long? Why is this like
well, yeah, because
the
at that
sixth,
point, everyone's
you know?
like, Hook should have been able to squash this old man. And of course, now the way that they did it, I understand the result, because if you get hit in the head with a fucking baseball bat, you ain't surviving from that.
No.
So, and he wasn't on shows at all this week.
Yes.
So
He was removed.
He's selling that obviously properly. So they did that properly. But do I want him to be FTW champion? No. Did we all know he was going to be FTW champion? Yes. But the biggest issue with Chris Jericho has always been that Chris Jericho is always around. He doesn't take a break.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, hopefully, if he starts to form a group here or whatever like that, he doesn't have to be like. You can have somebody in the group wrestle one week, and like Jericho doesn't need to be there.
He'll be on commentary.
Yeah, I just feel like they're just going to do the same stuff they did when he had the other groups. But we're see.
Always going to physically see him, and we're always going to hear his voice.
It's probably true, but we'll see. We'll see. I guess we'll see where this goes.
We've now all been sucked into the Jericho vortex.
Oh yeah, I mean we always do. We always have.
So,
we see Don Callis backstage yelling, scolding Will Ospreay, really, saying that he should have been more vicious in the ring with Kyle O'Reilly earlier in the night. And then he says Powerhouse Hobbs is about to go out there and win the IWGP Championship and show you what being a member of the Don Callis.
Are you there? Oh, you are there. You froze for a moment.
What? I froze.
Yeah, I thought like your internet went out or something.
Oh no. Oh, I'm glad I'm alive and here. Are we here? We're alive?
Yes, you're good. Yeah.
So Don Callis basically says, hey, watch Powerhouse Hobbs Will Ospreay. He'll show you what it's like to be a Don Callis member. You should be more vicious.
Yeah, and then you might have said it while you were frozen. You mentioned Kyle Fletcher kind of defending Will Ospreay.
I didn't, actually. I hadn't gotten there yet.
Yeah. So interesting. And now that came out of in the match, in the gauntlet match, Will did not do the Tiger Driver spot because last Sunday at Dynasty, in probably the match of the year for the moment, Will defeated Bryan Danielson with the Tiger Driver that they used. I mean, I don't know still 100% for sure if he's not legitimately injured. Because I would say when I was watching it with my group on the round table, everyone made a comment that it looked like his shoulder got dislocated on that spot right when they did the finish. Yeah. So we don't know if he is. Maybe he doesn't have a concussion or a head injury like they were playing it off as.
Yeah.
But he might have a dislocated shoulder. But I'm not saying that as a fact. I'm just saying that I saw it on Twitter. I saw it with the people that were watching with me. And in that moment, it had looked like his shoulder got dislocated. And they were telling Will to get off of, because that wasn't like the finish immediately, I know, but he was off in the corner before he did his final move.
Yeah.
I forgot what they call it.
Oh yeah, I know, the elbow, the running elbow there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
His back was turned and he was facing the crowd, and the referee spoke to the doctor in that moment
Yeah.
and was like, "Oh, it seems like something's wrong with him." And now they could have been selling. They could have been selling it.
Mm-hmm.
But Will turns around again, does the move, and then pins Danielson. And when he pins Danielson, he doesn't get off of him immediately. And the referee is like pushing him off of him, like, get off of him, get off of him.
Yeah.
Later on at the press scrum, they were making it seem like this was like an actual thing. And he
Yeah.
was like emotional about it. And he was like, I'm never using that move again. That's what sold the moment in the gauntlet match where he was about to do the move and then stopped and was like, "Oh no, I can't do this again." And did the pin, did his other move, and then did the pin, and then he won.
Yeah.
But Don Callis was upset that he didn't do the move, which is why he was scolding him.
Yep.
And so it's very interesting because you have to break it down like that, because the story is Don Callis and the Don Callis family are not doing as great as Don Callis wants, and as a result, he's getting mad and he's yelling at whoever he wants to yell at, even if it's Will Ospreay, who won at Dynasty, who won this match, but it wasn't in the way that Don Callis wanted him to win. Yep. Which is why Kyle Fletcher came to his defense. He's like, "Hey, he won. He won. What's the big deal?"
I like it though.
So it's really interesting that they're telling the story between what happened with Danielson, what's been happening with Fletcher, because Fletcher lost.
Yep.
To Swerve.
Again,
it didn't have to be Swerve. It could have been literally anybody else, but fine. So there's definitely, you're seeing right now the dissension in the family, and what it appears at the moment, Will and Kyle may be the ones to split. But then that leaves Will Hobbs alone. So who would then?
Well, I think Will Hobbs might. Well, we're going to talk about Will Hobbs in a second here, and Will Hobbs might not be around for a little bit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Well, I think this all ends with Don Callis being left at the altar by everybody, and just like kind of a big, "Hey, Don Callis, you suck." Like, F off.
Well, they're going to have to do that with Will and Kyle now.
Oh, for sure. But I always thought that was the thing, and then it would be, Will and Kyle, or I thought maybe Will would leave, and then Will would try to bring Kyle with him, and Kyle was in the middle. But it seems like Kyle Fletcher. I know there's multiple Kyles, but Kyle Fletcher.
Right. There's multiple Wills also.
It seems, I know. It seems like Kyle Fletcher is kind of already starting to immediately siding with Will Ospreay, which I don't mind because they have a history. So you would think he would side with this friend that he's been friends with for a decade more than, the guy that's been his manager for 5 months, but we'll see. But it's definitely, there's a lot of layers to it. So it's turning into a nice little story depending on how they kind of execute and utilize it.
Yeah.
We then had an IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. This was a big deal. It's the first time the IWGP Championship was being defended on AEW television. However, and again, we will say that it looked like Hobbs got hurt here. I don't think anything's come out or anything like that, but he was getting checked out by the doctor after the match. It looked like he might have hurt himself on that suicide dive that he did during the match.
Yeah.
This match was not good to me. This match was not that good. Now, did the injury play out to mean that they went home early? It seemed like they did, that they went home early because of it, and they didn't get to do what they really did. But I love these two dudes. I was looking forward to this match, them beating the crap out of each other, and it just did not And again, if an injury is an injury, like you can't.
And the injury, I mean, the injury didn't happen early into the match.
It didn't. And I thought the part of the match that was happening, which was a good chunk of it before the injury, I was still kind of like, like
it wasn't a bad match.
No.
But
I was just
it didn't
expecting
hit
it
as
to
much as
be.
I wanted it to, especially since they were playing up that these two had history.
Yeah.
In Daly's place, they were a tag team for a little bit.
Yeah.
And then Will turned heel on him.
Mm-hmm.
So,
again, hope Will Hobbs is okay. I love Powerhouse Hobbs. We are big time Powerhouse Hobbs supporters here. Love that guy. Hope he's okay. Hope it's nothing long term or serious, because obviously it did feel like they went home early because of what was going on there. So hopefully he's healthy. Hopefully we get to run this back at some point and they can have a proper match. But I was expecting more. I was expecting more between these two guys here. We then had Shibata. He was in the back with Renee. And he said that he's going to face Jericho this coming week on Dynamite for the FTW Championship under FTW rules. So this Wednesday night on Dynamite, we have Jericho one-on-one with Shibata for the FTW Championship.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Yeah, I expect Big Bill to get involved and help Jericho. Most likely, I feel like that would be the way. And then we have the face-to-face. Jack Perry, Tony Khan. My God. All right. So they're in the ring. Jack says the only thing he's ever wanted is what was best for AEW. He said what is best for AEW is for Tony to reinstate him and get past whatever happened, move on. He belongs in AEW and he wants what's best, and what's best is Jack Perry in AEW. Tony Khan, he puts his hand out for a handshake. Jungle Boy, Jack Perry does. Tony Khan shakes his hand. They're holding each other's hands up. They're celebrating. And Jack Perry punches Tony Khan in the stomach with the microphone. And Tony Khan dropped to the floor like he had been shot. It was quite amazing.
He was a little, he's an awkward guy, but
yeah, and, he don't take bumps. He don't take bumps. But no, so he drops to the floor. And Jungle Boy's just kind of standing over them. We then see the Elite, Matthew and Nicholas Jackson and Kazuchika Okada, come down to the ring, and they're getting in there. They're like, yo, whoa. What are we doing? Like, they're acting like, don't do that. No. They're like kind of pointing. Nicholas Jackson was like pointing at Jack Perry, like, come on, man. Like they were like talking to him, like, what are you doing? They lift him up. And the way that they lift up Tony Khan, it looks like they're going to give him the EVP trigger, and they're teasing it. And Okada's like, no. Okada comes in. He's like, no. And he goes, and they ended up giving Tony Khan the Meltzer driver.
Which they now call the Tony Khan driver.
That's the Tony Khan. It's the TK driver now. But they gave him the TK driver, the Meltzer driver, and then the new Elite, as they go off the air. You have Jack Perry, Okada, and the Bucks celebrating at the ramp, and you have all the security in the ring. Shad Khan, Tony's dad, was out there. That's how you know it's serious. The main boss, the big boss. Yeah, the big boss was out there checking on Tony. Oh my God. So this is a full-fledged angle where the Elite, including the Young Bucks. It was one thing for Jack Perry to attack Tony Khan, and they did like an internet thing afterwards, and Jack Perry yelling, saying, you took 8 months of my career. I love that shit. I love it. Lean into that. Jack Perry should be pissed. He should hate Tony Khan because he was the scapegoat and he was thrown under the bus, and we saw the footage. He shouldn't have been.
Right.
And that's why the footage, in hindsight now, was the right thing to do, because we saw the footage and Jack Perry wasn't the aggressor. CM Punk was the aggressor. And Jack Perry, it looked like, was defending himself for the moment. Like, he wasn't the aggressor. He didn't physically attack CM Punk. They had a conversation. CM Punk was clearly angry. Jack Perry probably did tell him to fuck off somehow.
And probably should do something about it.
Yeah,
and
do something about it.
Those
are CM Punk did.
Those are just words.
Yeah.
He's not like he went, "Do something about it,"
No.
and shoved him or touched him in any manner.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, as he's saying, "Do something about it," right when he's about to get attacked by CM Punk, he's flipping his hair. He
Yeah.
doesn't even have his body in a
Yeah.
fighting stance.
He's not in a fighting stance. He's not ready to be in an altercation. He's like, so we all saw the footage. We all saw what happened. And then obviously CM Punk ends up getting fired, but like Tony Khan suspends Jack Perry, basically tells him to go home. And he's been gone for 8 months. And he's missed 8 months of his AEW career, where a few months before that happened, he was in a fatal 4-way for the AEW World Championship with the Pillars. As part of the Pillars, as, hey, this guy's, he's part of the future of our company. He's one of the future pillars that we have here. And then you threw him aside for 8 months to try to blow over a situation that wasn't caused by him. And so it just works. It just works. So it doesn't shock me that he would attack Tony Khan. But then, and I know the Young Bucks and Okada are the heels. I get it. But the Young Bucks have been doing this character for months and months and months. They've never shown any ill will towards Tony. They've never threatened physical violence against Tony before or anything like that. And then all of a sudden they come out here and you got Okada kind of running the shots a little bit, going, hey, no.
Yeah.
Don't give him the EVP trigger. You give him the driver. And the Young Bucks are like, okay.
And he's just standing there going like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
So great.
And like things like that. And so all of a sudden it turns into, now you have this group physically assaulted the boss on national television.
Something that's never been done in AEW.
In AEW. Yes.
This is the WWE thing, the TNA thing. Every other wrestling company basically has had, even Scott D'Amore, was involved in stuff.
Yeah. It's just a matter of time. It's just a matter of time, to be honest with you. But
I think that this, ever since they came back as the EVPs, the Bucks, this has been a slow build leading up to this moment. And yes, you're right. They never showed any ill will towards Tony Khan. But they know this is what they're doing. It's like what Chris Jericho is doing, playing into the Jericho Vortex thing.
Yep.
And what they did by playing the footage, they are taking the internet criticisms, the Bischoff Cornette criticisms, and they're amplifying them.
Yep.
To make them look even more like what they are perceived as. And it's working.
Yep.
And this is clearly this angle, playing the footage to Wednesday, it's working. And forget about ratings, forget about all that garbage. The company is being seen right now in way more of a positive light than it has for at least 6 months.
I agree.
At least since Punk's firing.
I agree.
And for it to not just have been a major moment and first time angle for AEW as a company, but for it to then be talked about, Tony Khan physically in a neck brace on major sports channels like the NFL Network,
ESPN,
during the draft.
Well, I was going to say, because before we transitioned over to Collision, I had tweeted Wednesday night after Dynamite, and I had said, if Tony Khan is not in the Jacksonville Jaguars war room tomorrow night in a neck brace, it will be one of the biggest blunders in AEW history. And I meant that. That was sincere.
Absolutely.
That was a sincere. That was not me trying to be funny. I genuinely meant that. And guess what? God bless that man. God bless that man. Because on Thursday night, when the Jaguars were making their picks, this guy was in the war room sipping a cup of coffee with the biggest smile on his face, wearing a neck brace. And it was an old school wrestling, big, white, giant neck brace. and
Yeah.
I was in heaven, dude. We were doing the draft watch along on Beards, and I was so happy. That made me infinitely happy. And I was just sitting there going, that guy, whether you're gonna make fun of him or not, like that guy, he did a service for us wrestling fans on Thursday night. He did a service for us. That's what he did there. That's
Yeah,
what he
and
did by doing that.
it was not only shown, it was even reported on their website on the the NFL.
The NFL, yeah, that earlier that morning, on that Thursday morning, the NFL had to release a statement saying, like on NFL.com, they had an article on there talking about what happened to Tony Khan on Dynamite the night before, and they prefaced it in the angle. They said it's a story. They said it's an angle, a wrestling storyline, and he's like, they said he was okay. But they were like, you might have seen Jacksonville Jaguar COO, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, what is going
It's
on, man?
crazy.
And
Hopefully, it's gonna get them the positive buzz and more eyes for everyone. The
yeah,
NFL is a
yeah, dude,
major American pastime.
you had Rich Eisen, who's the face of the NFL Network, saying on air that Tony Khan took a Meltzer driver last night and he's recovering from the effects of a pile driver. This is on the NFL Network during their biggest night of the offseason. The draft is the biggest thing the NFL does in the offseason is the draft. It's like, besides the games, it's the most important thing that happens on the NFL calendar. And you had people, Mel Kiper, and people that have been on the ESPN draft for 30 years. And they're saying, oh, Tony Khan's on a neck brace because he got a pile driver last night. He's recovered. It's like, what? What? That is correct. It was just, oh, so good. It was so good.
Now, you hope that it leads to more eyes. Will it? I don't know.
Well, the next day he was on the NFL Network with the neck brace on, and he said some stupid shit again. So, it is what it is. I think he referred, and I get it. But I think the next day, so he did the draft on Thursday. He obviously got some press for the neck brace. So it was I feel like in general, wrestling fans, whether you like Tony or not, when you saw him wearing the neck brace, we were all like, that's our bro right there. That's our guy right there. That's how you do that. That's how you do that, Tony. That's for us. That's for us. That's how I felt.
Yeah.
That's how whether you like him or not, I was like, that's for us right there. That's for us. That was
I mean,
he
how
did
does
that for us.
He is at heart a wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So he knows that if I come on screen the next day after taking that pile driver and I don't have a neck brace on, or I'm not selling my injury in some way, it was all for nothing. And he knew that he had to do that.
Yeah.
And I appreciate him for it.
100%. And then the next day, though, so Friday, he was on the NFL Network, and they were asking him about AEW. And I believe he made a comment along the lines of, like, WWE is like the Harvey Weinstein of pro wrestling or something like that.
Yeah. Not the greatest comment, obviously.
No. Here's my thing. Not a wrong comment. Like, I think things that happened over there should be more out in the public, but, like, you can't say that and then have Ric Flair on your payroll.
And other people.
And Jericho. And Darby. And these people that have potentially, like,
you don't want to, when you're in a glass house, you don't want to throw a rock.
Correct. There's a way you could have handled that without saying it a certain way. Yeah. Like, I just feel like you can't consistently, don't get me wrong, the things that are happening over there, those should be in the spotlight. We should not stop talking about that. We should always be talking about that because there was a long history of not good stuff over there. So that should be public. It should be loud, and it should be in the discussion. But I feel like
by saying that the entire company
is
I think is kind of facetious. Obviously, there are certain people within the business side of it that are like that person that was mentioned. But, listen, I don't personally give a shit.
I don't either. But
I mean, I care that Janelle Grant and who is currently in the conversation right now, and the
Mhm.
reason why Vince McMahon is no longer with WWE and is being sued and is this whole lawsuit thing.
Yeah.
She needs the justice that she deserves, as do any of the victims of Vince, and not even just of Vince, but of sexual assault as a whole.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
So, um,
I just
it's just not. You just got to be better with your words. I
Yeah,
would
Tony
not
can
have said
Tony can
that.
get a little loose. Tony can get a little loose with his words sometimes, and he makes them, you know. I think it's one of those things where, you know, Thursday night happens and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like Tony Khan's getting like a lot of praise because it's funny and it's fun and he's not taking it seriously, but it's good, it's good hearted, it's fun. And then on Friday afternoon, it's like, ah, come on, man. You couldn't just take the good, just keep it going, man. Why do we
I
always got to
don't
go
think.
like,
Actually, now I
you
don't
know?
think that it's going to actually
I don't either.
negatively affect at all.
In
It
the
was
scheme of things,
as
no, but it's just like
Scott
kind of,
said. Scott's last comment there
yeah,
that
it was a
it's
misguided
misguided.
comment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Um, of course, the tribalists and all the Bischoffy idiots are
yeah,
going to be like, oh, this, are going to take all of the good that happened and they're just going to focus on that one thing now.
yeah.
Um, but they were always going to do that anyway.
Mm-hmm.
They were going to do that with whatever was going to happen after
It's
that.
probably true. It's probably true.
Because any good thing must be followed by the worst thing that Tony Khan and AEW as a company has ever done before.
Yeah, it's true.
That's
Yo,
what
we
they
got
do.
Dash in the chat. Good morning, my man. Hopefully
Good
you are
morning.
well. Had yourself a hell of an LPW 25 on Friday evening that he was commentating. All right, we're on
Now,
to oh, okay, yeah.
one more thing before we breeze through Collision here. Kenny Omega is showing up next week.
I was going to mention that. Yes, Kenny Omega is there. We assume he will be
We don't know
in
what
front.
he's going to be
No,
doing.
but we assume there will be a crossing of paths with the Elite. There has to be.
But could we potentially see Kenny Omega? Because they on Collision, they make a very forceful effort to tell you that Tony Khan is still running the show, but
But
he's
from home.
running it from afar.
Yeah. Oh,
Is
do you think
Kenny
Tony sent Kenny Omega
is
to
Kenny
run Dynamite?
Omega is Kenny Omega going to be the first ever AEW GM?
Yeah, because he can't wrestle, right?
Apparently, he can't yet because of his diverticulitis, and he's going to have
Yeah. Surgery or something.
But I don't know the full thing about it. I think that we're definitely going to see something with the Elite for sure. There's no way that you have him there and you don't do something with the Elite.
It's true.
But is he going to be on screen more? I don't know what if he's able to travel a lot. Obviously, they're
Yeah.
doing it in Canada
In
because he lives
Winnipeg,
in
yeah.
Canada.
Mhm.
But if he's able to at least do the Canada run of shows and travel to wherever they're going to be and be like the on-screen general manager of AEW in Tony Khan's place, being the physical presence for Tony Khan while Tony Khan makes all the decisions. I wouldn't hate that at all. I think that'd be actually a really cool thing because we've never seen that in AEW before.
No. Yeah, I don't know if I assume that I'm going into it thinking this is going to be a one-time thing. Like he's going to show up, say hi, and then he's probably going to be gone for a while. I wouldn't be opposed to, like Tony saying like, hey, I'm remote, but Kenny Omega's running the show for me tonight. So he's in charge. And then the Elite are trying to do things all night. And Omega's like, no, we're not doing that. And Omega's trying to basically block them all night because let's be honest. They fired Omega. They kicked him out.
Right.
Kicked him out of the Elite.
There's no way that Omega is there and they don't do something with the Elite.
No, but I don't want to leave this conversation because I think it might tie into something. But Dash does ask. He said, "Sorry if I missed it, but where does Will versus Brian rank up there for you all time?"
Oh, Will Ospreay and Brian Danielson.
Yes. Yes.
The way you spelled Brian, I was thinking, is there like Brian Cage or like what Brian? Because Brian does it with a Y.
Yeah, that's a Y, right?
That Brian does. Where does it rank all time? Like all time ever? Like in the history of wrestling?
I would need. Yeah.
I'm not good for these types of things because
I mean,
I'm not saying it as a cop out, Dash, I promise you. But
Yeah.
I'm not well versed in like the true history of wrestling to be able to say whether or not that's like the best wrestling match of all time.
In my opinion, since Brian Danielson has gotten to AEW, that was, in my opinion, his second best match that he's had against Ospreay. His first best match, to me, was the 60-minute draw with Omega.
30-minute.
30, that's right. Sorry. The 30-minute draw. No, who did he go 60 minutes with? Hangman?
Hangman, yeah.
No, the Omega one. The first Omega one. That to me, and again, that might just be because it was, and don't get me wrong, Will Ospreay and Brian Danielson is a dream match, but to me, Omega and Brian and Danielson was like a different level of dream match to me personally.
Yeah. I have to agree with you there only because that was my first AEW show.
There you go.
I was there in the building for it, and they started the show with it.
Yeah.
So I was unbelievably hyped to the point of near tears. And there's just nothing that will ever replace that moment in wrestling for me.
Yeah. So for me,
I mean, Bray Wyatt's return that I was also at was, a major moment too.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, that's just something that will live with me forever as a wrestling fan.
All right. So continuing this conversation with around the Elite and things like that, we have Collision. And Collision started with a Swerve Strickland promo. He comes out to the ring. Prince Nana introduces him as the new AEW World Champion. It's a good little moment. The crowd's giving him all the praise and the chants. And he starts running down basically all the big stuff that happened at Dynasty. He's talking about Willow Nightingale. He talks about Jack Perry. He says Jack Perry came back, helped the Elite, and he looks dead in the camera. And he says, "Hey, what you guys did on Saturday night and what you did to Tony on Wednesday, bitch move." That's a bitch move.
Yeah, bitch move.
And so for me, I'm just like, ooh, okay. Keep that in the back of your heads. With Swerve signing himself up for a date against who knows. But he definitely says that. He says we're in the Dynasty era, he calls it. And he says that he's going to put the AEW World Championship on the line tonight against whoever wants it. And then we hear Claudio's music hit. Whose house is right, Sonic? Whose house is right? We hear Claudio's music hit. Claudio comes down. They have a face-to-face. And Swerve says he's going to remind him tonight whose house it is. And Claudio says it's going to be his house tonight. So we have the main event for Collision later on in the evening. It'll be Claudio versus Swerve for the AEW Championship. Now, the reason I wanted to keep in mind the Omega stuff we were just talking about, do we think on Wednesday maybe, if there's a face-to-face with Kenny Omega and the Elite, that we maybe see Swerve? Maybe they're out back. You see Omega out back, the Elite there. It's 4-on-1. Then all of a sudden you just see Swerve come into camera. And it's Omega and Swerve standing next to each other across from the... Nothing crazy, but like just, that little visual of having the Elite there, and then you have Omega and kind of Swerve next to him as like, if things get a little haywire here, like, I'm here, champ's here, kind of take care of some business. Because they wouldn't have had Swerve make that bitch move comment if Swerve wasn't going to be getting involved with the Elite at some point.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
You would think, whether down the line or not, whether he's healthy, hopefully sooner than later, Kenny Omega and Swerve is a match that all of us would love to see
Yeah.
at some point.
Yeah. So here's the thought.
Yeah.
I agree with that, what you just said. Kenny Omega and Swerve probably having an interaction. Swerve is supposed to find out who his next opponent is on that show as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a multi-layered thing going on here.
Yeah.
What?
Do we think Hangman? He's
Sure.
involved with the Elite. He's got some history with all these people.
So I feel like the story. See, they had to take the rankings away because they couldn't do a story like that.
No. The main event of Double or Nothing should be Swerve and Hangman. That's what it should be. That should be the main event of that show.
So now that makes the Elite a 5-person group again.
Mm-hmm. Well, if Hangman's with them?
If Hangman's with them, yeah.
I don't know if he will be. They kicked him out.
He's the heel, though.
He is.
They didn't kick him out. They kicked Kenny out. They suspended.
That's right.
They said that they were forced to. So they were forced to suspend him. But then they just said, "Oh, Kenny, you're fired. We don't know where you've been this whole time." So they can now, because they're in the business of reinstating people who were suspended.
Yep.
As we saw with Jack Perry. And now, I think next week, Hangman makes his return, siding with the Elite as a heel, because he was already a heel before he left. And now it's Hangman, the Bucks, and Jack Perry and Okada. That's 5. Now we're going to have potentially Kenny Omega, Swerve. Now we got to get
the BCC is who it should be.
Could be the BCC.
Although, you don't know Danielson's injury. You don't know Omega. I don't think is going to be in the ring anytime. But like that, to me, when I think about if Kenny Omega, if everybody was healthy and it was on Wednesday and Omega's there, Tony Khan's at home, and you have that visual out back, if they do a camera cut, and it's the 4 guys in the Elite and Kenny Omega, the visual that I would see would be one by one. It would be Swerve joining Kenny, Bryan Danielson joining Kenny, and Moxley joining Kenny. And that would be the 4 that I would have aside across from the Elite would be Omega, Swerve, Danielson, and Moxley.
Because I think they're not going to use Danielson right now
because he's injured. I'm saying if everybody was healthy, that would
maybe Claudio.
You could do Claudio. You could do Claudio. I'm trying to think of who else could be. I mean, you could do Joe, depending on how you wanted to do. Because Swerve beat Joe for the title, so you could have Joe kind of be like, I don't know. There's ways you can do it. I just visualize Omega being across from the 4 and it looking like 4-on-1. What's Kenny Omega gonna do? And then some people are gonna like. Right. I don't think it's gonna get physical, but some people will stand beside Omega and be like, "Yo, we got your back if shit gets crazy. We got your back."
I think Joe actually would be a perfect addition for that. Yeah. Honestly,
so I'm just trying. I think Swerve definitely will be one of them.
But I was in my brain, I'm thinking 5-on-5 blood and guts. Some point. For like complete control of the company.
I mean, I don't know. Well, you could technically. What about it? Should be FTR then, right? Because they got screwed.
Well, I think.
Are they taking time off because of
someone's injured? I think.
Yeah, one of them is hurt. Yeah, so I was going to say that FTR would make a lot of sense because they lost the tag titles due to Jack Perry. So that would make a lot of sense. You could do Omega, Swerve, and FTR. That'd be a good 4 against, because then you have the tag team and you got the 2 solo guys, Omega and Okada.
I feel like Hangman is involved in this, though.
I think it should. Well, I think Hangman should be involved because I do believe that Hangman should be the main event for Double or Nothing with Swerve. But would you be upset if it ended up being Jack Perry? What if they brought Jack Perry back and immediately threw him in the world title picture with Swerve? He would lose. But what if it was, because Okada's the international champion? No, continental champion. So he's got a belt. He's taken care of. The Young Bucks are the tag champions. Jack Perry just came back to all this fanfare, just beat the shit out of the boss. Is that something we could, if it should be Hangman, that just makes the most sense. But if they wanted to play out the Hangman thing,
I think maybe Hangman should be for Swerve, and I think Jack Perry maybe goes after the TNT championship.
I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. I mean, I guess you got to just see where it goes, because the angle they did on Wednesday is gigantic. So you have to see really what the next couple of weeks look like of where they're going, because everybody in the elite, with the exception of Jack, and I get it, Jack Perry just came back, but everyone's got gold. Everyone's got gold in the elite except Jack Perry. So Jack Perry then needs to get some gold. So he's got the international championship and Roderick he could go after. He's got the TNT title with Adam Copeland. Something's got to go. Or he could say, you know what? I lost 8 months of my career. Last time I was here, I was fighting for the world title. Okay. You called me a bitch. You said it was a bitch move. All right, well, I'll show you how much of a bitch I am. Fight me for that title.
Technically, he was fighting. His last match was for the FTW title.
There you go. I was there. Well, not an all in. That was his last match, but he fought when he lost the FTW. He beat Hook for the FTW title when I was there in Boston. All right. So then we had a AEW Unified World Trios Championship.
I'm sorry
match.
to cut you off.
Doctor
said he doesn't need Hangman losing to Swerve again. I think there's a way that you could play it out to where there's like a DQ and it drags it in further to where there's just a big multi-man match.
Could. I don't disagree with that, Scott, because Hangman, they've had 3 matches and Swerve has won twice, right? Swerve's 2-1. So
yeah,
I don't disagree with that, because listen, I'm a big Hangman guy. Hangman's my favorite guy in the promotion. So I'm a big Hangman dude. But I understand that. I do. But I feel like Swerve's first real challenger for the AEW World Heavyweight Championship should be the guy that just tortured him for a year.
I agree. Yeah. I totally agree. I think
Double or Nothing, to me,
he's the first challenger. Absolutely.
Yeah, it should be. It just should be.
Because the elite reinstate him.
So we had a unified trios championship match. Bullet Club Gold defeated Action Andretti and Top Flight. This was a good little match. So I joined the Mark Order pod last night for their watch along of Collision, their Collider watch. I was on there with Ryan.
Very much. I love Mark
Good
Order.
group. Go give them a follow. And when this match was going on, I was like, can I be honest with you? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I would give the belts to Action Andretti and Top Flight right now. I would give them the belts right now.
Why is that?
Because I think they're like, again, I like Bullet Club Gold a lot. I just think Jay White should be doing other things besides being in a trios champion. However, Ryan kind of swayed me though. So I was sitting there going like, I would give it to Action Andretti and Top Flight right now, because they, to me, look like a prototypical trios team that should be like, to me, in future, they are a trios champions to me. Like those guys, they're like the prototypical thing like that, right? So I don't know. I was just thinking that way. But then Ryan was like, well, you have Jay White, who everyone knows is like world champion caliber. But if they have the world title stories written for the next 6 to 8 months, just go to Jay White and go, hey, we're going to make you a trios champion, and you're just going to have banger matches every week and just run the trios division. And I guess that's better than him not doing anything or doing anything important. You know what I mean? But I thought this match was good, a trios match.
Top Flight are amazing.
And Action Andretti's good too. He looked good in this match too, man. Remember when he beat Jericho his first night and they didn't do anything with him? We then had a House of Black vignette where they accepted Adam Copeland's TNT Open Challenge. So on Wednesday, he'll be fighting someone from the House of Black. We just don't know yet. We don't know who yet. I hope it's Brody King. I want it to be Brody King on Wednesday.
Well, I'm imagining it's Malachi.
No, I want Malachi at Double or Nothing. I think that's what they.
Okay.
I think that's where they go. So maybe it could even be Buddy, and then he has to fight Brody, and then he has to go through all of them.
Right.
Maybe.
Okay.
But I think it'll be Malachi and him at Double or Nothing. We then saw the return of Rey Fenix. He comes back and he is in a one-on-one match with the Beast Mortos, who used to be the Black Taurus. First of all, this match ruled. And second of all, Rey Fenix got the absolute shit beat out of him this whole match. Like this Black Beast Mortis guy, Mortos, he looked fantastic. They made this guy look like $1 million. Yeah. He was throwing Rey Fenix all around that arena. He was hitting monster moves left and right. And then Rey Fenix, being the underdog babyface, comes back, fights back, and ends up winning and getting the victory. I thought Phoenix took too much offense, to be honest with you. He got the shit beat out of him, Drew.
Huh. Well, to the point where probably because they were selling it as his first match back.
Yeah, but like to the point where multiple times I was talking to Ryan and I was like, is this guy going to beat Rey Fenix? Like, he's going to just beat him. But it was a great return, though. Good come from behind, come from underneath victory by Rey Fenix. I thought it was very good. We then also saw another return of Roosh, and he fought Martin Stone, Danny Burch. He dismantled him very easily. The thing that happened after the match is, though, he attacked him after the match and gave him a second one of his finishing moves. So that was a little, to see where that kind of goes. We then had an interview with Serena Deeb, where she said that it was obvious that she should be the next challenger for the Women's World Championship, and that failure is not an option because to her, the AEW Women's Championship, and this is real life. That's what she said, Drew. Whatever that means.
I love Serena Deeb. So
I do too.
I'm all for all of this. Mm-hmm. I don't know where I guess because now Thunder Rosa and Deonna Purrazzo are doing their own thing. So it leaves the main title spot open to somebody like Serena Deeb who wants to just insert herself there.
And I think it's a good fit. I think it's a good fit. It's somebody that Tony's going to win, but it's going to be a good match. They're both longtime professionals. Serena Deeb, one of the best in-ring women's, just wrestlers in general, and it's going to be good stuff. It's going to be good stuff. We had Toni Storm, speak of the devil. She defeated Anna Jay in a nice little match that they had here. My favorite part of this match was when Mariah May got hit, or Anna Jay either swiped at Mariah May or knocked her over or something like that, and Toni Storm ran to the outside and gave her CPR. I thought that was absolutely hilarious. But this was a nice little match. We then had a backstage segment where Chuck Taylor was with Orange Cassidy talking about the parking lot brawl that was happening on Rampage. And he looked at Orange Cassidy and he said, hey, no matter what, I got to do this alone tonight. I can't have you interfere. I need to do it alone, which I thought was nice because Trent and Chucky obviously have a big time history. So the fact that Chucky was like, I love you and I know you're here to support me, but like, I got to do this alone. I liked it. We then had the Acclaimed defeated. I think they shouldn't have defeated. I would have had them lose, but who am I? They defeated the debuting grizzled young veterans.
Yeah,
James Drake, Zach Gibson, grizzled young veterans, a great tag team. And this match, even though I'm not a huge on the, I'm kind of like everybody. I'm kind of tired of the Acclaimed act a little bit. This match was very good.
I'm not tired of the Acclaimed act. I think that I just think now they're starting to make Max rap more again. That I think shouldn't happen. And I honestly, I thought that they were going to be done after the pay-per-view.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, that he was turning heel.
Yeah.
So, but I feel like it's still probably going to happen.
Yeah, I would have used this match towards it. Like, I get it. If the grizzled young veterans aren't signed, I get it. Like, you're not going to have them beat, I guess, a team that is signed to you. However, I feel like this was a perfect opportunity to lean more into the heel turn that we all know or we all think is going to happen. Because let's say Grizzled Young Veterans wasn't signed, right? But AEW is interested in signing them. You have Grizzled Young Veterans pull off an upset victory. You give them a high-profile victory on one of your main shows. So if they are signed or you're close to signing them, you have this that they can bank off of. Or if maybe they're going to go somewhere else for a little bit, but your intention is to sign them down the line, you can always bring them back and you can reference this match. And I think another loss for the Acclaimed would have then led to Max Caster, who we think is going to turn heel.
What was the rap that was just?
I don't pay attention really to his raps, honestly, so I don't even know what he said.
I
know he mentioned the Impact Zone at one point, but other than that, I don't really.
I had joined the round table that were doing the live watch along, and I couldn't hear really.
I don't really pay attention to what he says on the raps. I usually just see on social media afterwards if people liked it or didn't, or they'll put the lines on there.
Usually, if he says something really terrible, I see a bunch of.
Yeah, I didn't think he said anything terrible, but again, I wasn't paying attention to word for word, so I don't know. Yeah. But this was a nice little match. Grizzled Young Veterans ended up losing. The Acclaimed won. Then we saw Daniel Garcia trying to convince Shibata to team up with him to face Shane Taylor Promotions. Or Shibata was saying that he was planning on fighting Shane Taylor alone, but then Daniel Garcia came in and was like, let me be your partner. And Shibata was like, eventually was like, all right, yeah, you can be my partner. So we found out that on Rampage, it was going to be Daniel Garcia and Shibata versus Shane Taylor Promotions.
Yeah.
I think Mercedes is 100% beating Willow.
Oh, hey, Throwback. Hope you're doing well.
Yeah, hope you're doing all right. He says, do you think Willow can beat Mercedes? If not, who can? Mercedes hasn't even fought yet. So I'm not even thinking about who's going to beat Mercedes. She needs to fight matches and wrestle matches before we're talking about who can beat her. She hasn't even won anything yet. Yeah. So I think that's getting ahead of the.
So you think Mercedes?
I think Mercedes wins or Statlander does something, but at this point, I think Statlander's attacked them both. So at the end of the day, Statlander is going to try to do what she can to become the TBS champion, I would think.
Right.
I don't know. I think if you're having Mercedes in a debut match at Double or Nothing, when she's been in the company for 2 months and she's fighting for a title, she's probably winning the title. I don't think they would have Mercedes go 0-1. That's just.
Yeah. You know? I don't know. I haven't put much thought into it.
I haven't either, to be honest with you.
The Statlander thing.
Yes, and I think that's the story of it, right? Is going to be the Statlander part of it. Because this whole time, Mercedes thinks that Willow has been the one that's been messing with her. So, and then, you don't have to apologize for anything. I just think when you're asking me who can beat Mercedes when she hasn't even had you know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't. I'm not worried about who can beat Mercedes. I'm worried about actually watching Mercedes wrestle a fucking match. That's what I'm worried about. Because it's been 2 months and she hasn't. And I get it, she's hurt. But I'm more worried about actually seeing her wrestle one match than worried about who's going to beat her.
This has been JPJ's thing since Mercedes debuted. He's been waiting to see her
wrestle. But they referenced that she was not fully healthy, which I'm totally okay with. But like, I'm more, when it comes to Mercedes, I'm more ready to watch her just wrestle a match instead of like wondering what's going to happen 3 months from now, or like who's going to, that's just kind of how I roll. And then, all right, so we had Shibata, Shane Taylor. That's going to happen. Then we had our main event, Drew. And it was for the AEW World Championship. It was Swerve Strickland versus Claudio. This match was amazing. This match was very good, as you would expect.
Yeah. Yeah. The false finishers were crazy. It was insane.
Yeah. That one move where Swerve kind of stood on Claudio's shoulders and then they turned it into the uppercut was amazing. He kind of didn't fully hit the uppercut like it wasn't a full flesh uppercut by Claudio, but the visual of it was incredible. The swing, and Swerve did it. Swerve had one of the ones where, some wrestlers put their hands on the head like this when they're doing the swing, but Swerve had his arms out, which I think makes the visual look even better when they're doing the swing and the arms are just flailing and stuff like that. So that's the spin by Claudio was awesome. He did it for a while. Yeah, this was a great main event. This was a great first title defense for Swerve. Claudio is an established guy. He's great. They went back and forth. The false finishes that you mentioned were just incredible. I'm excited to see truly what Swerve's first title program is going to be.
We will find out next week.
But I think they set a precedent this week though with Swerve where he's going to fight. He's going to fight a lot.
Yeah,
and he's
going
going
to
fight
on every show.
Yeah. He had 3 matches this week.
He fought on the major shows.
Yep. And I think that's going to be something that is going to be his title reign. Is I think he's going to fight a lot. I'm not saying Joe didn't, but you're coming off. I think.
Oh yeah, Joe did an eliminator match. He did a couple of title matches. Yeah. He did 1 or 2 matches on TV. So
yeah, and I don't think Swerve's going to be fighting on both shows every week from here on out. But I think that this week they set a precedent with the type of champion Swerve's going to be, because that promo that he cut, he called the bitch move and he called stuff like that. That was a pure babyface promo. He was talking about his daughter and the time he sacrificed from his kids for wrestling, missed birthdays, missed he was doing the prototypical I'm a massive babyface talking about my family and kids promo.
Right. Yeah.
So they're definitely that's where he's going, man. And that's why I think his first challenger should probably be someone that he has a history with, and should be someone who's, if you're going to portray Swerve as the really, really good guy now, he should be going against a dastardly heel, but yeah, anything else to add for the main event of the night? Just Swerve, just what you thought about the week in AEW, because it was a massive one. It was a massive one.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here for the day,
Swerve was the right champion for the right time. I think, the dynasty of AEW. He was the right person to be put as champion right now. Mm-hmm. And I'd much rather see him on TV at every show versus Chris Jericho. So, if he's going to be wrestling more matches as a result of being champion, it's going to be a fighting champion, as most baby faces generally tend to be.
Yep.
I'm all for that. More Swerve on my television.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
And AEW as a whole just had a very positive week.
For sure.
And it was much needed after the last few months. I just see great things coming from this. We're going to see Kenny Omega next week. We're going to see who Swerve's next opponent is. I like that they're doing the...
Good question.
Well,
I guess we'll figure that. We'll find that out. I think we'll find that out.
Yeah, maybe they get a little jealous.
Yeah.
Brian Cage could definitely be a fun program.
Oh, that would be nice.
For Swerve.
Yep, I agree.
And it's just going to be exciting. I'm looking forward to Wednesday's show and seeing this new thing that AEW is doing now of involving the authority figure angles that they've never done in their history. And a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to see an authority angle and whatever, but you know what, sometimes if it's done right, it makes sense.
Yeah.
That's how we got the main event of WrestleMania 30.
100%. And like you said, it's never been done in AEW before. They haven't done this yet. So let's see.
You're already off to a great start.
It was a good segment on Wednesday. It was good business. It's good business. So we'll see where it starts. But like you said, the authority angle / thing like that, that's something that AEW hasn't tested the waters out on. So let's see how they do with it. Because like you said, when you work that angle right, it works. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Vince McMahon. It worked. The Authority, before it went too long, the Authority in WWE back in that, middle 2010s and stuff like that, that shit worked. When Randy Orton and Triple H were working together and they screwed Bryan over for the title, and then it led to WrestleMania 30, like you said, that shit worked. And you know why it worked? Because it was Daniel Bryan versus the Authority, versus the lead. Like, he had to take down the people running the show. That works if it's done right. Now, we'll see. Tony Khan openly, like a week before this shit happened, came out and said that he never wanted to be on an on-screen angle, or he had no intentions of putting himself in an on-screen angle. Well, at the end of Dynamite, you did, buddy. You did. Now, he could play it off as if, this doesn't become a long-form angle for him, which is fine, but we're going to have to see. We're going to have to see, but it's exciting times. That was a kind of a real cliffhanger on Wednesday. So I'm excited to see kind of where it goes.
And does Tony's father make another appearance or something?
True. You don't see Shad. We don't see Shad that often. So when we see Shad Khan, it's real. It's real. But all right, Drew, we got to get out of here. That's why we had the earlier start today. So let the people know where they can find you and the things you got going on this coming week, and then we'll do our thing.
Well, actually, before we do that, I just want to mention the Chucky T and
we didn't talk about Rampage. Yes, but that match, you go see it. Go watch that match.
It was really bloody. It was really violent. It had, I think, the right finish for right now, because I think that's not done yet. Clearly, from Orange Cassidy and him almost going after each other. But yeah, I mean, I wasn't expecting Chucky to win the match.
Yeah.
He plays a really good babyface role, though.
He does. And Trent has just turned heel. You got to get the Trent heel turn over. Like, he's going to win that match, Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Yeah. And one other thing that happened on Rampage, Deonna Purrazzo fought Thunder Rosa. Match was good, but after the match, Deonna attacked Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
And she did a little interview where she was basically saying, like, hey, I lost a couple months ago. You just lost, and now you're still in my business. So I don't know where this leads to Deonna and like where her character shifts and things like that, but I like it.
I like a lot that there are multiple women's storylines in this company now.
Yeah, and I think
some not even for titles. So
yes, and I was just going to say that we had said that we had both said here that Deonna versus Thunder Rosa and like a grudge match blow off is a perfect non-title women's match for Double or Nothing. Perfect. That's the type of two wrestlers at that level that give them a street fight, give them a whatever you want to do, submission match, whatever. That is a non-title women's match that deserves to be on a main card, and I think that's where we're heading. We're heading. And that's a really, really good thing. Because not too long ago, we were complaining that, hey, from 9:30 to 9:40 isn't enough every Wednesday. So now you're getting multiple angles, multiple segments, multiple matches, non-title stories. Things are moving in the right direction. Anything else to add, Drew, before we kind of give our plugs and get out of here?
That is all.
All right. Do your thing, my man. Let the people know where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter at the Drew Nicholas. You can find me at the Roundtable Pro Wrestling Podcast. You can find me every Saturday night after Collision for the Fightful Collision post show with Cresta, with Iridian, with Rick, or with any amount, any combination of the three, and sometimes Sean will pop in too.
Nice.
Collecting the super chats and humper chats over there for that show. So always a great time. Come and join us.
Yeah.
And of course, I get to be with my buddy JPJ every Sunday right here at Firmly AEW, which you can also follow on Twitter at Firmly AEW.
Correct. And I know we teased it last week, but coming up here soon, probably this week, but if not this week, next week by the latest, you'll probably be able to see me and Drew chatting it up a different night as well. as opposed to like we'll be here every Sunday morning, but you might see us somewhere else too. So keep an eye out on our socials, the Firmly AEW socials, all the socials. You can find me right here at JPJ Loves Gaming on all social media platforms, including Twitch, where we stream about 4 or 5 times a week, playing some games, having a good time. Drew was in there a little bit earlier this week or late last week. You were in there popping in for a little bit, but we have a good time over there every Thursday night, 8 p.m. youtube.com/Love Wrestling CA. Me and Pluggo, the flagship of Love Wrestling Between Two Beards. And then every Sunday morning, I get to, like Drew said, we get to ham it up about AEW. And it's fun. I mean, it's always fun talking with Drew. It's always fun talking AEW, but talking AEW this last month or so has been a lot of fun. And I am looking forward to being able to still do it every Sunday. So thank you, everybody in the chat. Throwback. Hope you are feeling okay, my friend. Scott, Malith, Sonic, everybody that popped in the chat. Lawrence earlier. Lawrence's mom. Hi. Thank you for all being in the chat. We appreciate you. Thank you for starting a little bit early with us today. But for Drew, for myself, we appreciate y'all. And you guys know the drill. Until next time. Peace out.